Space, vast and dark. Stars like distant diamonds. The spaceship Aurora drifted, searching. Captain Ava stared at the scanner. A blip, an object. In the emptiness, a find was always exciting.
"Ship ahead, Captain," announced Officer Lee. "No life signs. Looks abandoned."
Eva felt a pull of curiosity.
"Bring us closer. Let's see what we found."
The alien ship was massive, made of a material that shimmered like oil on water. No lights, no sound, just eerie silence. A small team boarded the alien ship. Eva led, her heart pounding. The team had been preparing for this moment for months, but nothing could have truly prepared them for the reality of stepping into an alien world. The ship loomed before them, an enigma wrapped in metal and mystery. Each step they took echoed in the vast emptiness, a reminder of the unknown they were about to face. The air was cold still. The walls seemed to pulse faintly. It was as if the ship itself was alive, breathing in a rhythm that was both unsettling and mesmerizing. The team moved cautiously, their senses heightened, every sound amplified in the eerie silence. The faint pulsing of the walls seemed to sync with their own heartbeats, creating an almost hypnotic effect.
"This metal, it's warm," said Mira, the ship's engineer, touching a wall. She had expected the cold, unfeeling touch of metal, but instead, it felt almost alive. The warmth was unexpected, a stark contrast to the cold air around them. Mira's mind raced with possibilities, trying to understand the technology that could create such an effect. Was it a form of biometal, or something entirely different? And I think it moved. Mira's voice was barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of her discovery. The wall had shifted, almost imperceptibly, but enough to be noticed. It was as if the ship was responding to their presence, acknowledging them in some way. The team exchanged uneasy glances, the reality of their situation sinking in. They were not just exploring an alien ship, they were interacting with it.
They found a chamber in the ship's heart. In the center, a large metal orb pulsed with a soft inner light. It hummed. The chamber was unlike anything they had seen before, a blend of organic and inorganic elements that defied explanation. The orb seemed to be the source of the ship's life, its heartbeat. The soft hum resonated through the chamber, a soothing yet eerie sound that filled the space.
"What is that?" whispered Kai, the young navigator, his eyes wide. He had seen many things in his short career, but nothing like this. The orb seemed to draw him in, its light captivating and mysterious. He felt a mix of fear and curiosity, a desire to understand the unknown. The rest of the team shared his sentiment, their eyes fixed on the orb, each lost in their own thoughts.
The orb seemed to watch them. Ava felt a chill. It was as if the orb was sentient, aware of their presence. The chill ran down her spine, a reminder of the unknown dangers they faced. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. The team had come too far to turn back now. They had to uncover the secrets of the ship, no matter the cost. The journey had just begun, and the mysteries of the living metal and whispering walls awaited them. As they neared the orb, it flared. The air crackled. Eva felt a sharp pain in her head. Images flooded her mind, burning cities, screaming faces, death! She stumbled back, gasping. The others cried out, clutching their heads. They saw it too, horrific visions, not their own.
"It's showing us something," Mira stammered, her face pale. "But what?"
The visions faded. Eva felt shaken, but an even stronger urge to understand gripped her. Suddenly, the ship lurched. Metal groaned and twisted around them. The floor tilted. Eva fell, grabbing a railing.
"It's changing."
Kai shouted, fear in his voice. The orb pulsed rapidly, its light blinding. The ship was alive, and it was angry. They were thrown through corridors, the ship warping around them. Then, with a final shuddering halt, silence fell. Eva was alone.
"Kai, Mira."
She called out, her voice echoing in the unnatural stillness. Eva found her way back to the central chamber. The orb pulsed, even brighter now. The air was thick with tension and the atmosphere felt almost suffocating. She could feel the energy radiating from the orb, a palpable force that seemed to reach out and touch her very soul. The chamber was dimly lit with shadows dancing on the walls, creating an eerie and unsettling ambience. Ava's heart pounded in her chest as she took cautious steps forward. her eyes never leaving the glowing orb that seemed to pulse in sync with her own heartbeat. Kai and Mira stood before it, their eyes glazed as if in a trance. They were completely still, their expressions blank and devoid of any emotion. It was as if the orb had stolen their very essence, leaving behind empty shells of the people they once were. Eva's mind raced as she tried to think of a way to break the orb's hold on them. She knew she had to act quickly, but the fear of the unknown paralyzed her for a moment. The sight of her friends in such a state was almost too much to bear.
Kai! Mira! Snap out of it! Ava's voice echoed through the chamber, filled with desperation and urgency. She hoped that her words would reach them, that somehow they would be able to break free from the orb's control. But there was no response, no sign that they had heard her at all. The silence that followed was deafening, and Ava felt a wave of hopelessness wash over her. She couldn't lose them, not like this. She had to find a way to save them, no matter the cost.
She cried. They didn't react. The orb hummed louder, and Ava felt its pull on her mind, trying to trap her in its nightmare. The sound was almost hypnotic, a low, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through her entire being. She could feel her thoughts becoming muddled, her willpower weakening as the orb's influence grew stronger. Ava fought to stay focused, to resist the pull that threatened to consume her. She knew that if she succumbed, there would be no one left to save Kai and Mira. She had to stay strong for their sake and for her own. Kai turned, his face contorted in pain and fear. He reached out to Eva, a flicker of his old self in his eyes. It was a small glimmer of hope, a sign that he was still in there somewhere, fighting against the orb's control. Ava's heart ached at the sight of his suffering, but it also steeled her resolve. She couldn't let the orb win. She had to find a way to destroy it, to free her friends from its grasp. The determination in her eyes was matched by the fire in her heart, and she knew that she would do whatever it took to save them.
Destroy it, Ava, before it destroys us all! Kai's voice was strained, filled with pain and desperation. It was clear that he was using every ounce of his strength to fight against the orb's influence, to reach out to Eva and plead for her help. His words echoed in her mind, a stark reminder of the gravity of the situation. The orb was not just a threat to them, but to everyone. If they didn't stop it now, it could spell disaster for countless lives. Eva knew what she had to do, but the thought of the sacrifice it would require weighed heavily on her.
He lunged, throwing himself at the orb. A blinding flash. Silence. The room was plunged into darkness, and for a moment it felt as if time itself had stopped. Ava's heart raced as she tried to make sense of what had just happened. The silence was oppressive, and the darkness seemed to stretch on forever. But then, slowly, the light began to return. The orb was gone, and with it, the oppressive energy that had filled the chamber. Kai lay on the ground, motionless, and Ava rushed to his side, her heart in her throat. She prayed that he was still alive, that his sacrifice had not been in vain. As she knelt beside him, she felt a faint pulse, and a wave of relief washed over her. They had done it. The orb was destroyed, and they were free. But the cost had been high, and the scars of this battle would stay with them forever. Eva stared. The orb was dark, inert. It seemed to absorb all light around it, creating an eerie void in the middle of the spaceship's control room. She felt a shiver run down her spine as she tried to comprehend the nature of this mysterious object. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before, and its presence filled her with an inexplicable dread. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of the spaceship's engines. Ava's mind raced with questions. What was this orb? Where did it come from? And most importantly, what did it want? Kai was gone. Mira collapsed, the trance broken. The weight of the situation hit her like a tidal wave. She had been so focused on the orb that she hadn't noticed Kai's absence until now. Panic set in as she realized the gravity of their predicament. Mira's legs gave way beneath her, and she crumpled to the floor, her mind reeling from the shock. The corridor seemed to stretch endlessly before her, a labyrinth of cold metal and flickering lights. She felt a sense of hopelessness wash over her, as if the walls were closing in, suffocating her. She looked around, confused, then at Ava, her eyes widening in horror. The realization of their dire situation dawned on her, and she felt a surge of fear. Ava's expression mirrored her own, a mix of confusion and terror. They were alone, stranded in the vastness of space, with no idea what had happened to Kai. The orb's presence loomed over them, a constant reminder of the unknown dangers they faced. Mira's mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. She felt a cold sweat break out on her forehead as she struggled to make sense of it all. The ship, no longer a threat, began to break apart. The once formidable vessel was now a crumbling wreck, its structural integrity compromised. Pieces of the ship floated away into the void, a silent testament to the destruction that had taken place. Ava and Mira watched in stunned silence as the alien ship disintegrated before their eyes. The sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, a stark reminder of the fragility of their own existence. They knew they had to act quickly if they were to survive. The clock was ticking, and every second counted. Ava grabbed Mira and ran. They sprinted down the corridor, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls. The ship's alarms blared, adding to the sense of urgency. They had to reach the escape pods before it was too late. The path ahead was fraught with obstacles, but they pushed forward with determination. Ava's grip on Mira's arm was firm, a lifeline in the chaos. They navigated the maze of corridors, their hearts pounding in their chests. The fear of the unknown propelled them forward, giving them the strength to keep going. They escaped in an escape pod as the alien ship crumbled behind them. The pod's engines roared to life, propelling them away from the wreckage. They watched through the viewport as the alien ship disintegrated, a cloud of debris spreading out into the void. The sight was both a relief and a sobering reminder of the danger they had narrowly escaped. The pod's interior was cramped, but it offered a sense of safety that the ship had lacked. They were finally free from the immediate threat, but the journey was far from over. Safe aboard the Aurora, Mira wept for Kai. The loss of her friend was a heavy burden, one that she struggled to bear. The memories of their time together flooded her mind, each one a painful reminder of what she had lost. She felt a deep sense of guilt, wondering if there was something she could have done to save him. The tears flowed freely, a release of the pent-up emotions that had been building inside her. Ava sat beside her, offering silent support. She knew that words would be of little comfort, but her presence was a source of strength for Mira. Ava stared into the void, haunted by the visions. The images of the orb and the alien ship replayed in her mind, a constant reminder of the horrors they had faced. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that something was out there, lurking in the darkness. The vastness of space seemed to close in around her, a suffocating void that offered no solace. She felt a deep sense of unease, as if the events of the past hours were just the beginning of something far more sinister. The questions that plagued her mind offered no answers, only more uncertainty. The alien ship was gone, but the terror it carried lived on in her mind. The memories of the encounter were etched into her consciousness, a permanent scar that would never fully heal. She knew that they had been lucky to escape with their lives, but the cost had been high. The loss of Kai weighed heavily on her, a constant reminder of the dangers they faced. She wondered if they would ever truly be safe, or if the shadows of the past would continue to haunt them. The void outside the ship seemed to stretch on forever, a dark expanse filled with unknown threats. What else was out there, lurking in the darkness of space? The question gnawed at her, a persistent fear that refused to be silenced. The universe was vast and filled with mysteries, many of which were beyond their understanding. She couldn't help but wonder what other dangers awaited them, hidden in the shadows. The stars outside the ship offered little comfort, their distant light a reminder of the isolation they faced. She knew that they had to be vigilant, to stay one step ahead of whatever threats lay in wait. The journey ahead was uncertain, but they had no choice but to face it head-on. The question chilled her to the bone. The fear of the unknown was a powerful force, one that threatened to overwhelm her, but she knew that she couldn't afford to give in to it. They had to stay strong, to keep moving forward despite the challenges they faced. The future was uncertain, but they had each other, and that was enough to give her hope. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead. The journey was far from over, but she was determined to see it through. Together they would face the darkness and find a way to survive.